All right. What's Frost Mastery?
So Frost Mastery, like previously mentioned, is related to like ice and like cold spells. Uh, for now we are releasing like more frosty spells lah. You can say, yeah.
Right. So Frost Mastery includes things like water spells as well,
Mm.
things that are liquidy, blue, all of the good stuff. All of the if you were a water bender in Avatar, the Last Bender, Frost would be water, right? Good morning, afternoon, evening.
Hmm.
Be careful, man. Like if you're driving in the middle of the road.
Yeah.
All right. We're gonna go through the usual things. So we'll go through the descriptions of the mastery. What are some combinations? What are the skills that are available? And then we'll go through the individual skills itself. And then we'll go through a kind of like overall summary of it. If you would like to pause and take screenshots or whatever. So let's start with the description. All right. So Frost mastery is it's the mastery that we have that is based on frost magic. Oh, okay. I see. So if you guys have already seen the Flame Mastery previously, which the VOD is available somewhere in the channel, and I've actually posted a link recently about it. So if you have seen the Flame Mastery, this is the Frost counterpart to it, right? And the reasons why we are doing masteries in this manner instead of having, all spells like evocation in your traditional TTRPGs is that we want you to be able to take a single aspect of the magic, of the elemental type of magic, and put it into your other class fantasy combinations, such as like a frost sword shield wielding kind of knight, if you want to be like, Arthas wielding frostmourne and stuff like that, right? So in this case, the frost mage here is very much focused more on slows, medium range, not super long, and a lot of control, right? So I'm going to read the description right now. This is a snippet from the book. This is in the rule book that will be included in the basic set, right? So stand unmoving as you channel chilling blizzards, beams of everfrost, and shoot razor-sharp icicles, slowing enemies with frostbitten limbs before shattering them into crystalline shards, right? So the mastery in frost focuses on channeled spells, area control, and mobility denial through movement impairing effects such as slows and chills, right? You can create walls of ice to deny enemy movement or slow down entire hordes with Howling Winds, which is the picture inside the background, right? The core attribute of Frost is Affinity, and you require a focus to be equipped to cast any Frost spells. So if you have already seen some of our other masteries, all of the masteries for martial weapons, the core attribute is dependent on the weapon itself. So if the weapon is a might weapon, it's a dex weapon, you would use might or dex. However, for magical masteries, they come with a kind of like a pre-allocated attribute that you have to use. So in this case, for Frost, for Flame, it is Affinity. For Radiance, previously that we showed, it was Charm, right? So Frost, Affinity, right? So there are 5 skills here as per normal. The choice node is in the second rank, right? So it's Cold Beam, Icy Lance, Frost Nova, Glacial Wall, and Howling Winds. So you can start to imagine what are some of the inspirations that we have taken from, right? And here are some examples of mastery combinations. So as always, these are examples. These are not like hard rules that you have to choose from. These are our way to tell players who are not so familiar with the system or the way that we're doing our mastery system as to how you could emulate what you've already been playing in other systems and what are some interesting combinations you could have with our system in particular, right? So the first one will be the cryomancer. The cryomancer is like your typical ice mage, right? So you have frost magic, but with a little twist, which is that you're wearing heavy armor. So frost in the basic set is designed around is not you don't have to use heavy armor, but it is very much designed around having heavy armor. It's a natural synergy that we have, right? So you're an everlasting glacier, right? You're casting spells and people can't stop you, and you're able to constantly hold on to your channeling spells, right? And the second example here is the paradox. So the paradox is if you have seen the cover of our basic set, there's a little like claimant guy who has like fire spell. You can't see his other hand, right? It's not drawn in, but he's a paradox character as well. He has flame and frost magic, right? You're casting, fireball here and a frostball in the other, right? And you're wearing cloth armor. Well, why are you wearing cloth armor? Because you're a wizard. Okay, is there anything else before we want to move on to the very first skill?
Yeah, that should cover most of it. So like what you mentioned, so for the basic set, the focus for frost is more like frost. So and in our skill selection kind of, and as well as like the design philosophy for the basic set, right? It's more about channeling, so being not as mobile, but dealing quite a fair amount of damage and stuff like that.
Yeah, so Frost in the basic set is very much so making the enemies immobile rather than you being mobile, right? You are not mobile. Well, you can be, but generally you're not going to be. So let's go on into the very first skill. All right. As always, we'll have a little picture of the card. We've swapped it around from the last time because it's a bit easier to read from the top and it doesn't block like all of the YouTube UI and stuff like that. So the card example is below. This is not the card that's above. I'm going to be showing this card throughout the entire video. This is the same art that is in the background and the picture for the Frost Mastery, right? Which is Howling Winds, which you'll see later. But for reference, so the cards are representing the different skills that you can obtain through the mastery. As you level up your mastery, you rank it up and you put points in them and you learn the skills, right? And everything that you need to use a spell or a skill is contained within the card, right? So let's jump right into the very first skill here, Cold Beam.
So Cold Beam is the very first skill that you pick up in the Frost Mastery and you it's basically a rank 0 cell. So what that means is actually because just now I think you showed on the table, so it's rank 0, 0, 1, 2,
2, 3.
Yeah. So being rank 0 means this is the kind of identity of the skill. So
it's the very first skill that
it's
you
the
will
very
learn,
first skill that you learn.
if you pick up the Frost Mastery.
Correct. So but it's also what you can expect from here onwards. So going to the skill itself. So Cold Beam, these are the tags for it. So what are tags, right? These are like identifiers for the skill itself. So in Cold Beam case, it's a strike, range, bane, channel, and spell. Going down one by one so strike is when you will roll a strike roll, which is you rolling a 2d6 roll. Then you determine based on comparing to the evasion and then a pass and fail based on that. So range means this is from range, and bane means that this is it causes a debuff in that sense. Channel do you want to go more into it?
We're going to channel later.
Yeah, okay. So spell is just it being a spell.
Yep.
Which is tied to the next one, which is the skill type for Cold Beam is a spell. So SP cost, right, is stamina cost here.
Stamina point cost.
So stamina point cost. So in AoE we utilize a stamina point cost system. So what that means is like every spell, every action costs a stamina point. So for movement, your movement, right, is 1 stamina point, and you can move up to your movement speed. So for Cold Beam case, this costs 2 stamina points. And basically level 1 and level 2, that's all your stamina points.
Yeah.
Then like what I mentioned earlier, this is a Frost 0 spell. So this means that this is the first spell that you learn in the Frost Mastery. And requirement is this you need to wield focus. Then finally the last one is mastery point cost. This is also known as learning point cost. So and this is 1 for this particular spell. So what it actually does is, right, so here are the effects So in AoE from most of the strikes you usually see 3 effects. So the successful effect, great success, as well as the critical success.
Yep.
So what that means, right, is when you roll a pass, you apply the first effect, and when you roll a single 6, you get the great success effect, and when you roll a critical, you get all 3 effects. So these are all staggered in that sense So for Cold Beam, the base effect, right, is you channel. So you see a bracket one lightning bolt. So but that is the stamina icon here. A range, what is it? 60 feet.
Yeah.
60 feet spell strike, dealing 6 frost damage up to for up to 1 minute. So then the target loses 10 movement speed till the start of your next turn. For great success is you deal additional 2 damage, and for the critical success, the target will not be able will have 0 movement speed to the start of your next turn.
So you're basically frozen this guy, right? So this is a new property that we haven't really gone through before in the previous skills, right? Which is channel. So channel is something that is new. It's
very rare for
it's not common currently in our skill set that we have in the different masteries. However, channel is similar, not exactly the same thing. Similar to concentration in D&D and other TTRPGs and stuff like that, right? So the idea is that you're casting a spell, right? And you're maintaining your focus upon this thing, and you're constantly using it, thus you're channeling it. However, we don't have spell slots, right? And we have stamina points instead. So the way that we maintain the channel is by constantly spending a lower stamina point cost voluntarily every single round, instead of paying the full cost of the spell to reuse it again. So in this case, yes, the first time you cast Cold Beam, it does cost you 2 SP. However, every single round after that, you can repeat the cast for 1 SP instead, which is why it's 1 Thunderbolt, right? So you channel for 1 SP every single round, you make a range up to 60 feet spell strike. So spell strike meaning you roll 2d6 against the opponent's evasion, and then you deal cold damage, right? So you're casting your beam, the beam hits the guy, and then he gets frozen. Well, chilled first, right? So the first time you hit him, he loses 10 movement speed. So what that means is that till the start of your next turn, means that you have cast your spell, right? He has to go 1 round with minus 10 movement speed, and then after that, when it reaches your turn again, he gains back his 10 movement speed, right? So minusing any movement speed reduction, right, stacks, right? So if you hit him more than once, he loses more and more and more movement speed, which can be quite detrimental, right? So the second effect is just 2 damage more, and then the third effect is when if you crit, this guy just stops moving, right? He can still attack, he can still use stamina points and stuff like that, right? But his base movement speed is 0. And if you are familiar with some of the other masteries that we have shown, such as the Swift Edge or mainly the Swift Edge, right? The skills move you using your movement speed. So if your movement speed is 0, you don't move, right? So this is one of the ways that we try to make the system kind of like synergistic and applicable throughout all of the different masteries and balances throughout the different skills. So that's Cold Beam, right? Your Frost Beam, your Ray of Enfeebling and stuff like that, right? Is there anything else you want to go through for Cold Beam?
Pretty straightforward. So like what you mentioned, this is basically this is your first skill. So you will be, and I think this skill is quite useful even at like level 5, which is the kind of the end of the the basic set campaign lah.
Yeah, basic set adventure,
adventure, So do note that just now when we say movement speed reduction stacks, right? It stacks up to 0.
Yeah. You can't go negative.
You can't go negative here.
If you're not moving, you're not moving.
Yeah.
Right.
And to go into a bit more depth is for regarding the turns, right? So what we have in AOA is that we have a round, and within a round, right, you have 3 different type of turns here. So the player turn, the enemy turn, as well as this thing called a scene turn, where like the background things happen. So like for example, a flood happens. So what all these effects are done there. And when we talk about like start of your next turn means like it goes through the whole round into the start of your turn.
Right. So within a single turn, there's no initiative. You can go in between your allies attacking, different actions. You can go in between as long as it's on the player side, right? And then it goes to the enemy and they do the same thing. And then the scene turn and then goes back to you again, right? So it goes in the same round constantly until the enemy dies, right? Or you die, right? Either or. So, all right, let's move on to the second skill, which is Icy Lance. So this is a skill that you pick up after having picked up Cold Beam, right? This is a rank 1 skill, so you must have already spent 1 point inside Frost. So Icy Lance. What's Icy Lance?
So Icy Lance, right? A bit more simple than Cold Beam. So what it is it's a strike range Bane spell. Almost same thing, you just don't see channel here.
Yep.
It's a spell skill type. The standard point cost here is 1, and it requires 1 point spent in the Frost Mastery. Then similar to Cold Beam, it also requires you to will focus, and the learning point cost here is 1. So what it actually does, right, is it's a range 60 feet spell strike dealing 4 frost damage, and on a great success, right, it deals 1 additional damage, and it loses, and the enemy, the target loses 10 movement speed again. So this is something that you will see a consistent trend in the Frost Mastery for the basic set. Yeah. And finally, for the critical success, right, the target loses 1 stamina point. Yeah.
Which is a very big deal.
Very big deal.
Right. So traditionally, if you were stunned in TTRPG, you lose your round, right? Another way of looking at losing your round is also losing your actions. We don't want someone to lose their entire round, right? So instead of losing an entire round, you lose a stamina point, right? Which at lower levels, you only have 2 stamina points, so that's half your actions. At higher levels, they have 3 stamina points, so that's 1/3 of your actions, right? So this is one of the ways that we are trying to scale back the effect of a full stun, but at the same time still keep that that kind of like debuff freezing element to it without completely ripping out the flavor, right? So let's go through the entire skill again in a quick summary. So Icy Lance, yes, it's a strike, it's a range, it's a bane, it's a spell. It's a bane because it has a negative effect, right? This is 1 SP cost. So if you saw just now, Cold Beam, you start your first cast, right, with 2 SP, and then you can maintain with 1 SP. So because you're slowing your enemy so much, and you don't really need to move, or your ally may help you to cover or whatever, you can channel with 1 hand, and still cast your Icy Lance of another, right? You can't channel 2 spells at the same time, but you can channel 1 and keep casting other spells, right? So the kind of design concept was that, yes, you would cast your Cold Beam, and then you'd be casting Icy Lance at people as they come by, right, just to strike them down. So if you land both your strikes on the same guy and it's a great success on one of them, this guy is going to lose like 20 movement speed, right? This guy has to crawl to you at 10 movement speed every single move action, right? Which can be very detrimental, right? So you're starting to see like, okay, there's this kind of like foreboding aura and control that is happening already at level 1, right? Level 1 or level 2, depending on how many points you want to add in, right? And of course, losing that 1 stamina really makes a difference, especially with the way that advantage works, which is that when you roll a 2d6, which is a strike, right? You roll a 2d6, if you have advantage, you add a 3rd dice, and you take the 2 highest ones, right? And if you get more advantage, you just get more dices, and then you take the 2 highest ones no matter what. There's advantage vice versa, right? Which means that it is quite realistic for you to obtain critical successes, not super reliably, but fairly often.
It gets more and more reliable the more ally help you have. So like for example, we have talked about like mastery, like for inspiration. So stuff like setting a single die to 6 and stuff like that. Yeah.
Does 0 MS cancel out a charge skill? Yes, it does. So if you have no movement speed and ask you to charge, you can't move, right? So it does cancel the charge, right? It is a direct counter to it.
Correct. So it's a set to 0. It's not I put you.
I mean, yeah, it is a set to 0. Yeah. So if you reduce the guys to 0, his charge is just you can't move anymore, right? Wouldn't be wise to shout charge if your allies are frozen. So, right, not the smartest commander on the field.
You could also just give it to other people.
Yeah, that's true.
Since this is like a single target spell, stuff like that, so it's not you still have your other allies to cover.
Right. These are single target skills, but next one is not.
Yes.
So Frost Nova.
The first choice node. So Frost Nova is a react blast bane spell.
Right.
So react is if you have watched the Swift was the last Swift Edge? Yeah. So Swift Edge mastery video, right? You'll be quite familiar with this term, but I will explain it here also. So what react is, right, is this is basically a trigger. It's a triggered spell of one of the effect that will be I will talk about later lah. Yeah. It is in other traditional TTRPG, it will be basically reaction. Reactions attack lah, reactionary attack and stuff like that. Yeah. So for blast, right? So you have seen strikes. So strikes are the 2d6 where you roll against the enemy, and blast is actually the saving throw side of an attack where the receiving target will now be the one rolling check against you. Yeah. And then Bane and Spell. So it's a spell skill type again. And here the stamina point cost goes back up to 2. Mastery is Frost 2, so this means that you need 2 points invested into Frost before you can take this skill.
Yep.
You need to be wielding a focus, and the learning point cost here is 1. So what Frost Nova does is react when a melee strike hits you. Spell Blast, how much again?
The number is down there. The blast strike.
Everything in a 10 feet emanation for 5 damage. And creature lose 10 movement speed till the start of your next turn.
Yep. Another 10 movement speed gone, right?
Not only that, but they are also knocked back up to 5 feet if they are no larger than 1 size above you.
So if you're medium, you can lock up to a large, right? And if you're large, you can lock up to a huge, right? So this is kind of like that. The kind of like reactionary when it hits you and then you release this blast and it pushes people away and freezes them and stuff like that, right? So Frost Nova, it's a react for 2 SP. Not cheap. This is not cheap, right? At low levels, which you can obtain this at level 2 at the lowest, right? That means if you spend all of your points into Frost, you can obtain this at level 2, which means you only have 2 SP, right? If you were to react, which you would have to use all of your SP to react, you would spend it and then you would push them away and it deals 5 damage, right? Not super efficient in terms of SP, but this can leave a very lasting effect on the battlefield because you are, first of all, this is AoE around you, right? Enemies have already reached you at this point. You're not going to knock them away, and you're going to also slow them for 10 movement speed until the start of their next turn.
Correct.
Right.
So do note that it's not only enemies, it's everything. So this includes allies that's near you.
Yes. Be careful with your allies near you. Yeah. Of course. Right. So the second part is that you have to react only when the strike hits you.
Correct.
So this is not when someone tries to make the strike. This is after they've already hit you. So you already confirmed that they're already, next to you and they're gonna smack you already, right? Then you can react with that hit. Right. It has to be a melee strike. So if someone shoots you with an arrow, you can't do this. If they have a very long melee range, yes, it still procs it. Right. And this is where there's a little bit of a caveat, right? Which is that you could have melee weapons with more than 10 feet range. It is possible. If you have a polearm and then you use, like if you have seen our Radiant Mastery, we have an enchantment that extends a melee weapon by 5 feet, right? So if your polearm is 10 feet, you polearm another 5 feet, is 15 feet now, right? I can actually melee strike you from outside of your range. So there is that possibility, but generally, that's not going to be happening.
So on that particular situation, right? Even though they hit you, you can still use Frost Nova, but it just doesn't affect them.
Yeah.
Because they're right outside the range.
That's right.
But everyone who is still within your range, right, still gets affected.
Correct. So 10 feet emanation, so it goes up from around you, 5 damage. They lose 10 movement speed until the start of their next turn and are knocked back up to 5 feet. Right. So it's you can imagine you get strike, ice comes out, howling winds from Warcraft, right? Blast them away.
So just imagine this as like a shockwave type skill, but like Frost team in that sense. Yeah.
It's a armor of Agathis on crack, right? Yes, don't use this while flanking, that's right. Well, okay. If you're flanking for someone else, if you are angled nicely, sure. If you're not angled nicely,
you could somehow knock them back into another flank as well.
It is possible. It's
possible. Yeah.
There are some strategies you can do here, right? But it requires the enemy to hit you. So there. It's not. It's definitely a reactionary move.
So a bit more on the reaction side, right? Is because this is a reaction that is on the melee strike, right? Which means this is most likely happening during the enemy turn.
That's right.
So this means that because the way we in AoE, right, our stamina system, right, you regain your stamina at the end of your turn. So this means that if you use this skill during the enemy turn, it affects you directly in that when it's your player's turn, right, you have nothing to do. So do take note if you only have like 2 stamina cores.
And this
stuff
applies
like
to all reactions.
that. Correct.
Right.
All reaction that's using stamina that's plus your player turn lah.
Yeah, I mean, if you're reacting on your turn, then sure.
Yeah.
Right?
Then
But if you're reacting after your turn, during the enemy's turn, typically you're gonna have less stamina by the time it reaches your turn again. Right. Okay. Now, the 4th skill, Glacial Wall. So Glacial Wall is a slightly longer one. As you can see, it's covering the picture of the card.
not the longest one. I think.
It's not the longest one.
The final one is
one.
longest one, yeah. So okay, sorry, yeah. So Glacial Wall. So it's a blast and spell. It's pretty for text wise, it's pretty short. It's a spell type. The stamina point cost is still 2, and this is the other option of the choice note between Frost Over and specifically this skill is Glacial Wall lah.
Yep.
So requires wielding a focus, and the learning point cost here is 1. So what it does is you conjure a 15 feet line
Long wall
within 60 feet of you for 1 minute, and when you create that wall, right, you do a spell blast on the targets that are in the area for 4 damage, then knocking them back up to 5 feet if they are larger than you, if they are one size larger. Yeah. Then the Glacial Wall itself has stats, so it has no movement speed, obviously.
Yep.
It's 2 armor and 8 HP. And it's weak to fire, and
immune to cold.
Right. And size wise is 5 feet by 10 feet. 5 feet wide and 10 feet tall lah.
Yep.
Then you can only have a single wall conjured at any point in time.
That's right. So this is the other control option that we want to have instead of having a reaction. You could have the reaction and you could have this one as well. But generally, if you want to bum rush the final skill, which we would recommend, right, you would want to choose between this one and Frost Nova. So this depends very much on what is your intent with playing Frost. Are you someone who is trying to get closer to the enemy, or are you someone who's trying to stay as far as possible away from the enemy, right? This can also affect your team composition as well. Because if your allies are all going to be in melee range, or they're all going to be ranged, a wall makes a very big difference. Whether you're walling your allies away from the enemies, walling your allies with the enemies, or blocking your own allies' line of sight.
Yeah.
Right?
So if you're playing against, like, if you're playing with a full party of like ranged guys, right, and then you decide to block them from advancing to you, you're also blocking your party from attacking them.
That's right.
Right? Because it's a 10 feet wall.
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
So if you're familiar with League of Legends, this is like Anivia. That was like Anivia's literal like wall, right? True. However, this one does a little bit of damage and is preemptive. So yes, you conjure a 15 feet line. So conjure is not exactly a keyword, but this is a term that we will use whenever you create a lasting effect. So in Flame, we use conjure when we talk about burning ground, right? So you conjure a burning ground, even though yes, it is a channel in which you conjure a burning ground, right? So you conjure a 15 feet line Glacial Wall within 60 feet. So this is within 60 feet of you. So this is exact same range as Icy Lance and Kobe, right? For 1 minute, which is 10 rounds. Yeah. Spell Blast. And we didn't note just now, but Blast for Frost is based on Vigor. So the saving throw here is Vigor, it's not Dexterity. You're not using Dexterity to dodge a cold spell. You're using your Vigor to resist the cold. Right. So this is something that's a little bit unique, slightly different than your traditional, like, I shoot a fireball and you jump away from it, right? So this one is, I cast a frost spell and you're trying to resist the cold with your vigor, your fortitude, right, with your body, right? So spell blast, it knocks them for 4 damage. If it succeeds, if it doesn't, they just, they don't take the damage, they just get knocked up with the ball, right? So sends them 10 feet up, knocks them 5 feet away if they are small, right? Note here that this is not a size larger than you. This is large or smaller, because the wall is a standard size. Your wall is not going to get bigger currently, right? And yes, the wall itself doesn't have stamina because it's not going to do anything, right? So we're gonna do weak to fire. So what exactly does weak to fire damage mean in AoA?
So I think this is also the first time we will see this with weakness and immunities. So these are all under like a damage multiplier lah.
Right.
So in your traditional like other TTRPGs, right, you have like 2 times damage, stuff like that. So for weak to fire, it's the same thing. It's
Yep.
also 2 times
Exactly the
damage.
same thing as
So-
other RPGs.
Correct. So imagine I throw a fire bolt at you, right, and it does like 4 fire damage.
Mm.
But against the wall, it'll be 8.
Yep.
Over here. So it's a very simple calculation here. And immunity just means no damage
That's right.
taken. Yeah.
That's right. Yep. So summon this thing. It's immune to cold damage. You're gonna shoot your own ice spells at it. It's not gonna do anything. If someone shoots a firebolt, it explodes instantly. Right. So it's a little bit of weakness. It could also be a strength because you might want to do some weird shenanigans. Right. You could set burning ground on your glacial wall for some reason if you like to. And then it's 5 feet, 10 feet tall. Right. There are some combinations when it comes to raising someone 10 feet up in the air. Right, which we are not going to go through, but it's a little bit of a sneak peek into our pole arms, right? And you may only have 1 glacial wall conjured at any point in time. So funny thing about that, there was a playtest where imagine this, right? So you're Frost Mage now, you have Glacial Wall, you have Cold Beams, you have all of this stuff, right? You have a lot of AoE control, movement control, right? And you're fighting enemies in a dungeon.
It was basically a dungeon, yeah.
Right? It's a dungeon and you have corridors, right? You could put the wall this way. You can also put the wall into the corridor, right? Creating a 15 feet long, thick ice door, right? Blocking the way, right? So there are a lot of interesting and creative combinations that we've seen before we added the limitation here, right?
But do take note that it's the whole wall is 1 HP.
It's a single HP, yes.
HP. It's not like I think in Valorant, right, where you have the
Oh,
wall that comes out and then it's like
different-
individual blocks.
Yeah, they're not individual
they're
blocks,
not individual
so there's
blocks,
there's no health tracking there for your
Yes,
poor
it's
GMs, right?
yeah.
But the reason why it is so interesting is because making it 15 feet that way, right? It actually stopped a lot of the enemies from reaching a point where they would be able to reach them in the next stamina, right? Because they'll have to now do an attack and then they'll get in, and then because unless your players are standing literally against the wall, they're probably going to stand like at least another 30 feet away.
Yeah.
Right?
Which means, right, even if you have like I think just now what you mentioned, which is with reach weapon as well as like the legs extend, right? You still can't hit them through the wall.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely not. Yeah. It is a physical solid wall right there. Right. It's a very simple concept, but I think that this is something that is very fun in practice, right? Especially when you don't have spell slots, you can spam this wall, right? Like I think that's something that if you come from playing like your traditional like D&D Pathfinder, like Vancian magic and stuff that use spell slots and having limitations on the number of spells you can cast, it's not immediately apparent like how often you can actually cast this thing, right? And that goes to all of our spells. You can just cast them as much as you want, as long as you have stamina, right? At the cost of, standing still, right? Of course, because you're using a lot of SP, right? Can a divine armament pass through the wall? Yes, it can. So armaments itself are ethereal. So the armament can go through, you can't go through, right? So you can swing from behind the wall and then your armament hits them, right? But your armament can only be within 15 feet of you.
Yeah.
Right. So it's on the other end of the wall, yes, but what are you gonna do? Like, unless the guy is literally standing on the end of the wall, then you can strike him there, right? If not, I guess you could cleave the wall to kill it instantly.
You could also just jump onto the wall.
You can't jump 10 feet by default.
Yeah, okay. Scale the wall, I guess.
Yeah, you could climb the wall.
Yeah,
you can use your move action if you want to. Yeah, it is an option. But I mean, there are a lot of creative ways around this and against this, right? And this is one of the skills that I think is quite fun when we've seen them in playtests. A lot of different usages.
I think the most usage for this skill was actually the dungeon itself. Like what you mentioned, like which is they're using it to wall off against like any incoming enemies, reinforcement and stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think this skill is also probably going to be pretty interesting when it comes to fighting hordes of enemies, because you can nicely like corner them into into a
kill zone.
Kill zone, stuff like that, right?
Which actually fits into the next skill.
And so the very last skill, which is the card below, right? It's a sneak peek the whole time. Howling Winds. What is Howling Winds?
Howling Winds is a blast, bane, channel, and spell. So this is the second time you see the channel? Yeah. Second time you see the channeling skill lah. So skill type is a spell. stamina point cost here is 3. Right? So this means
It's
that
an expensive one.
basically it causes your all of your stamina at the higher levels lah. Yeah. Then mastery requirement here is Frost 3, so that means that you need to have like 3 skills before this.
Yep.
And here the requirement is slightly a bit different in that you now require to use your voice on top of building a focus. And the learning point cost here is still 1. So what this does is actually it channels, the channeling cost is 1 stamina point, the recast cost is 1, and what it does is you do a 10 feet emanation blizzard within 60 feet for up to 1 minute.
So 10 feet emanation meaning like from a single point 10 feet out, then you draw a circle, right? So 20 feet across.
Spell blast all targets. So the spell blast here is also vigor. All targets in the area for 6 frost damage. And when they enter or end their turn inside it, then the targets, all these targets loses 10 movement speed till the start of your next turn as well.
As long as they've been hit. Right. So this is a much more, how to describe it? It's a very
oppressing.
It is very oppressive.
Yeah.
It can be very, very, very oppressive. So initially when we were playtesting this skill, right? The concept of this skill was initially on archery.
Right.
It was like a rain of arrows, and it would do a lot of things.
Pinning rain of arrow thing. Yeah.
And it was unbelievably oppressive, right? So we've toned that back slightly. It used to be much bigger. Now it's slightly smaller. You can control it a bit more.
15 feet wide.
Right. Yeah, it was 15 feet, so it's 30 feet across.
Yeah.
Now it's slightly more controlled. You're not going to hit all of your allies with it all the time, right? Breaking their own concentration sometimes. However, what it does now is that when enemies, and you see the same thing in Burning Ground, right? Which is that this triggers when enemies enter the thing and when they end their turn on it. So they actually get hit more than once, right? If, for example, they want to run into it and end their turn in it, they get hit twice. Yes, that's right. And as long as they get hit, they lose 10 movement speed until the start of your next turn, right? So the reason this is the start is because it's meant for on the player's turn, right? And then for the second part, targets also lose 10 movement speed as long as they're in the blizzard.
Correct. So, in totality here, right, means that they're losing 20 minimally,
right?
Correct.
As long as they get hit.
As long as they get hit.
Right. If they don't get hit, they lose 10. So just running through this blizzard already cuts their movement speed down, right?
So but the thing here is that is while in the blizzard, right? So this means that if they run through, then they're fine after that. But
well, yes, but the moment you enter the blizzard, you already lose that 10 movement speed.
So this means that it's not. Yeah.
So you couldn't make it up to the other side, right, which is the issue. Right?
Then I think the next point is important, which is you yourself as the caster are not affected by this spell.
That's right. That does not mean your allies are not affected.
Yeah.
So be careful. Your allies are definitely affected by this spell.
This also means, right, if you have 2 frost users, you are still affected by the other guy's Howling Wind.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yes.
Because you're not that.
Same for Burning Ground in
correct.
the Flame Mastery.
Yeah.
If you set the ground on fire, yes, you, the caster, are immune to the spell. That does not mean the other casters are immune to that spell, right? Because you're only protecting yourself, right? So it's quite typical of most AoE spells to just affect everybody, including yourself, including the enemies. So this is just a reminder, because we have a lot of like minute measurements to every single spell. You know, there's exact feet distances, it takes up X number of squares, it controls area, right? And that's intentional, right? We designed the game to be very much a tactical kind of like FF tactics, RTS kind of design concept, right? Very combat focused, very combat heavy, very combat specific, right? So it's just a reminder that yes, all of these things do affect, some things don't, such as this doesn't affect yourself, right? But generally they do affect everybody in the area effect.
It also generally affects you unless it's stated otherwise.
That's true.
Yeah.
You fireball the floor, you're gonna hit yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Frost Nova is around you, so it doesn't hit you. Right. You can Glacial Wall yourself, by the way.
Yes.
So you can hurt yourself with your own Glacial Wall. If you have enough armor, see, you can block off the whole hit, right? You can still just knock yourself 10 feet in the air. Now you're standing on a Glacial Wall, right? So is there anything else you want to add here to Howling Winds?
So I think this is one of the few like combination for if you're going to full frost where you're going like Glacial Wall into Howling Winds where you can like massively cut down like what are even the enemy options of approaching you as well as your party lah. Yeah. So these are some some gameplay planning that may or may not be required here along. Yeah, and coordination as well. So this is how we are pushing for the tactical aspect of our of the game. Yeah. So we make things like how do we give tools to the players, right, to control the battlefield. So Frost is one of the few mastery that has a higher priority in that sense, where they are more of the controlling mastery itself. Yeah.
Yep, Frost is definitely very much the control mastery. If you want a skill set that is meant to dominate certain areas of the battlefield,
like locking down
targets, lock down areas. You want to just stop them from moving through an area. Frost mastery is definitely for that. However, Frost mastery also has 2 channel skills, which are your 2 main skills basically.
So a bit on that also is that I think you touched on this very slightly, but you can only have a single channeling spell active at any given time.
That's right.
Yeah.
So okay, just gonna quickly go through all of the things that we have shown so far. Right. So the description here. So this is what we showed just now at the start, and then we have the first skill Cold Beam, second skill Icy Lance, third skill Frost Nova, fourth skill Glacial Wall, and then the fifth skill, which I'm going to put over the Frost description because there's not enough space, Howling Winds. Right. So with these 5 skills kind of like set up in mind, right? Just want to go through very quickly like what are some of the combinations and design decisions, and why I said at the start that Frost is very much a heavy armor spec. Right? It's a for the basic set, right? Frost is very much designed around you wearing heavy armor. Just swap that right here. Just put this back on. Okay. So the reason why I say Frost Mastery is very much a heavy armor spec is that you have to channel spells. So Cold Beam, very first skill, it's a channel. Howling Wind is a channel. When you channel, your concentration can be broken, right? There is a cost here. You're standing still, you're probably going to get hit, and yes, you're channeling a spell. Now, when you are hit, when you are channeling a spell, you have to make a concentration roll, right? Which is a 2d6 roll. All of our rolls are 2d6 rolls. It's a 2d6 roll with a vigor, right? The difficulty is based on the damage that's being dealt to you at this point, right? With some caveats. The exact formula is in the rulebook itself, right? So you'll make a concentration roll, a concentration check, and you'll see if you maintain your concentration. If you have enough armor and the damage is low enough, you could just ignore this concentration check, right? Thus building heavy armor, right? So when you start stacking, and this applies to even blasts, AoE attacks, and all these things that graze you. So traditionally, if you had high AC in another TTRPG like D&D, you have high AC or you have high dex, these things are not directly correlated, right? Because if you have plate armor versus if you had like leather armor with dexterity, yes, all of it's high AC. People have difficulty rolling against you, but if you have plate and you had to make a dex saving throw, you're still gonna suck, right? Because you're not gonna have enough dex. However, in AoE, because you have armor rating as a stat, this reduces damage completely. So if you have 4 armor and the guy does 4 damage to you, you take 0. And when you don't take damage, you don't make concentration checks.
A bit clarity on this, that when damage, right, it means like damage to your health. It does not mean the raw damage from the attack.
Yeah. So basically, you took no damage. No?
Yeah.
You have reduced that damage to 0.
Correct.
Right.
So I think we showed that the combination is with heavy armor. And heavy armor, the reasoning for that is because heavy armor is there is another armor class that has armor, but it's not as much. So it will does its job in that, because it's a mixture between evasion based as well as like more armored based. it might be better for certain players if they like to roll and stuff like that.
No, it's definitely worse if you're trying to channel things.
Correct,
Because you have less armor rating. So no spell is going to hit you for 1 damage. Right?
Yeah.
So if you only have 1 or 2 armor, it's probably not going to work very well.
Mm.
Right? So it very much encourages stacking at least 3 or 4 armor, maybe even 5 armor if you want to take a shield. Right? So that's why we say that you want to take you might want to take heavy armor. However, there's also the option of just screw it, just wearing cloth armor, just evading, having an inspiration ally. Just now you mentioned that having an inspiration ally casting charge and using your move action for you, basically, right, to move you instead of you having to move yourself, right? So it's saving a little bit of SP here and there, right? Frost is also not one of those masteries that benefit as much from having more stamina, because channels can only be repeated once around, right? So if you have cast Cold Beam for 2 stamina, the second down you want to use 1 SP to cast it again, you can do that, yes, but you can only do it once around. So it's maintaining the spell. So no matter what, you always have this other SP that you have to use something like maybe Icy Lance. You can use it for your move. You can use it for all of the other basic actions that are available as well.
Oh, like what you mentioned, which is what if you're holding a shield, you could use the shield as well. Like
that's right.
A skill from the shield side. Yeah.
That's right. So Frost Mastery are not as multi-classable compared to the other masteries. However, definitely still very much so. It wants to take on the core identity of your character in the basic set, right? I wouldn't recommend taking. I mean, you could take like a 1 or 2 dip into Frost Mastery, but compared to the other masteries, I think it is not as effective.
If you were to take a dip, right, I will actually only say that you might at most, depending on your team comp as well, maybe take up to Frozen the Glacial Wall. Like that is kind of the strongest control skill that we have in the basic set. So if you want to take a dip, but that's also not really a dip at that point because it's pretty high level. So you're
Glacial means you're taking 3 points,
3
and
points,
right? So that's half your mastery. So that's taking half, right?
Yeah. So is it really a dip at that point, right? And anything below that is like fiber. If you take Cold Beam, right, that's not worth as a basic dip, right? You will still want to go Icy Lance at this for like the minus a stamina point.
Well, I think there are some interesting options that you can
definitely
have
there's still some interesting options, but recommendation for me will be looking at team comp. I'll probably just take until Glacial Wall. Yeah.
I mean, I think it depends very much on what you're trying to multi-class with, right? So if you're playing Frost Mastery, odds are you want to play Frost Magic. You're probably going to be range already. Frost Mastery does not have much support for melee combinations currently, right? If you want to have like Frost with a pet, okay. You want to play Frost with Flame and Arcane, also okay, right? Because they're all affinity specs, right? But playing Frost with the martial ones, not as good, not as terrific currently, right? But one thing is true is that Frost is a simpler mastery. Similar to Flame. I think Frost are both the Flame and Frost masteries are a little bit on the simpler side. I'll say Frost is probably simpler than Flame. Simply because it's easier. There's less interactions with other players as well. But you can have more creative ways of using your own spells, not having to synergize with other players as much. With the caveat that you don't want to actually hurt your allies.
Yeah.
Right.
So the only synergistic stuff for Frost stuff, right? Frost Mastery would be more of like positioning as well as like receiving buff, stuff like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't really call it synergistic. Like you're not providing anything, and you're not really particularly aiding anybody else, right? Like sure, anybody can receive buffs from your allies or enemies.
Glacial Wall will be an assistant to a future mastery that we'll talk about, but yeah.
Yeah, that's about it.
But that's about it.
Yeah. So yep, and that is basically all of Frost Mastery for today. And this is a pretty short one.
Yeah.
By virtue of how simple Frost Mastery actually is. Right. So if you have seen our other masteries, other mastery VODs, other mastery videos, do try and consider some combinations that perhaps we might have missed out. Right? If you have seen perhaps you have seen a skill and you're like, oh, like that looks like it could work very well with Frost. A buff wall to be a lower mastery investment. 2 points, it's already
very
low.
low already.
2 points alright.
Yeah.
I think it's fine. Because if we bring it any lower, it becomes is it really a skill that needs to be so low, you know? Like is this something that we want to give to
if it's lower, right? Because so the way the mastery also is balanced around is also balanced around the stamina point cost. So if I were to lower, for example, like if I were to lower this by like 1, right, which means it's competing with Icy Lance, that means you will never have enough stamina.
Right.
Do anything.
Yeah, correct. So at level 2 and below, you will never have enough stamina
Correct.
to cast a second spell, right?
And you can get Icy Lance at level 1.
Yes.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. So
actually, it's actually pretty easy already because you can get Glacial Wall at level 2.
Yeah, level 2.
Yeah, level 2. Yeah,
Yeah,
level 2. Yeah.
Level 2. But the reason why we force players to take Cold Beam into Icy Lance is that you should always have something to do with your SP. You should never have nothing to do. You should never have to use a move action, basically. Right? So as long as you cast a Cold Beam and now you're casting the channel plus a Cold Beam, you should always have a 1 SP option to be available. Right.
To be fair, you do have your normal weapon attack, but
yeah, you're not going to use your normal weapon attack on the take the staff and bonk the guy, right? Like you could, but not recommended.
No recommendation.
Right? Not our intended design. Yeah. So yeah, if you have seen any particular combinations that might be interesting, do share them in the comments. Be it in this VOD, be it in the other VOD, just share them. If you've thought of anything cool, that's great. We are
alternatively also you could join. You could go on the Discord and we can have a discussion. I think there's some discussion channel that we can talk about there.
Yep. And so with that, all of the links in our description below in the stream for our pre-launch Kickstarter, for our Discord channels, for Instagram, for X, all of the social media is on the description below. And please subscribe to this YouTube channel as well. Leave a comment, press the like, it helps with all the algorithm stuff that I have no idea about. Right. So without further ado, I have been Jon.
I'm De Yang.
And this has been the 13th. I keep saying 14 because I did the thing on Wednesday. This has been the 13th episode of Tiny Table Talk. Going forward, we'll be doing Tiny Table Talks on Saturdays here, Fridays in the US, and we'll be doing Dev Diaries on Wednesdays here and Wednesday morning in the US. Yes. Yeah, it's still morning. Yeah, it's like Wednesday, like 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. or something like that. Yeah. I apologize. It's quite late here. Yeah. Right. And now it's quite early here. This is the troubles of living in Asia.
Time zones.
Yep. So without further ado, we're signing out.